The redesign of Divi from Divi 4 to Divi 5 has now included professional features. Now, the problem is with these professional features also brings a lot of complexity. So if you're someone who is using Divi 4, you may find this so overwhelming and confusing. Sometimes you don't even know where to start. But it is not really a negative, because if you know the workflow or the design process, then everything really falls into place. Now, I want to show you my design system that allows you to design professional looking websites, which will be consistent, and also the workflow is going to be very, very easy to follow. Now, I want to compare between a vanilla Divi out of the box, a Divi 5, and Divi with the design system, so you can see how easy it is. And this is going to be the design system that is going to be perfect going forward. All right, so over here I have a basic install of Divi 5. Now this Divi 5 is just out of the box, so let's design something very, very basic. So I'm going to add a column here, and in here we're going to add a heading. So let's just go ahead and give this heading a bit of text like that. And then we may also need to center this heading. So I'm going to come over here to design. We go to heading and then center it. The next thing we're going to add is a paragraph text. So we're going to come over here, search for my text module, and then we're just going to add our text in here like that. And then of course we're going to center it. Now, if you're going to be designing this using the Divi 4 way of designing websites, typically what you would do is you would come over here to your heading and say, okay, you know what? I want a specific size for my heading. So you would come over here to design, and then you go to heading text. So right now it's set on heading 1, and over here we have 30 pixels. So you may say, okay, you know what? This heading is not big enough. I want it, let's say around 42 pixels. Right? So now it is slightly bigger. And then the next challenge is going to be, okay, so is this going to look great on a tablet? And then of course they've given us features. So we'd come over here to the tablet view and say, okay, the size hasn't changed. And I can see from here that the size hasn't changed. Perhaps maybe we can just bring it down a little bit to about, let's say 36. And then now for the tablet, it's now 36. Great, right? Next, you're going to say, okay, for the mobile, it needs to be slightly smaller. And as you can see, it's on 36. So we may say, okay, let's make it about, let's try 28. You hit enter, and then you'd say, you know what, maybe 28 is a bit too much. Let's go for 26. Oops, 26. So here, as you can see, this design is called design by eyeballing. Now, in proper design, when you design a website, it works with scales. So there's formulas. So from heading 1 to heading 6, these sizes follow a rhythm. It's called a scale. Okay. But right now, I'm designing how we would do in Divi 4. So it may seem like this is a really cool solution to designing, but you'll find in a moment that this is not the right way of designing. Next, you'd come over here and say, you know what, let me fix this body text. So you'd come over here to your text. It's right now at 14 by default. So you're going to come here and say, okay, let's go for 16 pixels. You hit enter, and then you say, okay, perfect, right? Okay. So can you imagine now you're designing a complete page? Perhaps you want to go in and now this time you want to add, let's say, some blurbs. You'd come over here, add your blurb. Again, we have the same problem, right? The text here needs to be adjusted. So now you want to come over here to design, and then you want to go to your title text and then say heading 4. Nah, I want this to be about, say, 24. Okay, let's try 24. You hit enter. Okay, so now that's slightly bigger, which is cool. The body text here needs to be about, let's say 16. So you'd come over here to your body text and then say, okay, from 14, let's bump it up a little bit. We even have this dial here, okay, which we can use, which is pretty cool. But anyway, let's just go in and dial in 16, all right? Okay, cool. So now that we have our sizes here, I'm just going to minimize this text a little bit, because this is a blurb. And then perhaps you may want to add an image in there. So we'd go in, we go to image and icon, and let's go to our library. Okay, so I don't have any images here. Let's find an image. So I'm going to use this image right here, click on upload. All right. So now I have my blurb. So typically to fast forward this, I'll just duplicate this 2 times and then just drag this over here, drag this over here. All right. So now we have our section. The next step now is saying, okay, we need some breathing space around here. And again, you're going to be eyeballing the sizes. So let's select our section settings here. And then what you do is you go to design, you go to your spacing, and then you want to add some padding. Now, when I was designing in Divi 4, I used to use VW and sometimes percentage. So let's try 10%, right? So I would say, okay, 10%. And I want to apply the same, on the bottom as well. But this is a bit too much. And this again is where I start doing my eyeballing. So I start reducing it now. So I would say 9, 8. Is 8 okay? Yeah, maybe. So I'll say 8%, right? So after this here, I'll go ahead and save. And then I'll say, you know what? My main section now is done. But when we look at this, it may look like we've achieved the proper design process, but really we haven't, because we haven't even touched on the new features that make us design websites like professionals. And these are things like your variables. Okay, so you can see here we don't have any variables, right? We're adding all our text sizes manually. On our text here, there's nothing, for our colors here, we just have these basic colors. So we haven't really utilized, the only thing we've done here is change our fonts, okay? So one thing you may be asking yourself is, okay, so what is the right way of designing? Because clearly this is not the right way to design, because you are going to forget your spacing that you've used here. I've used 8%. So one way I used to do this is to write 8% down on a piece of paper, and then I would save that. And then for my sizes, sometimes I use 32, sometimes I use 36, sometimes I use 40. I would, write it down. But after a week, when I come back to the site, it will be so overwhelming because I've forgotten what sizes I've used. And this was very, very frustrating. Now, let's say you want to design another section. So what you would do is you duplicate this just to save time. And in terms of colors, this is how we used to do this. You'd select your background, you go to your content, you go to your background here, and then you start saying, okay, I need a very light gray. And then you start eyeballing it here, right? So maybe F8, 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 like that. And you now need to memorize this color. So as you can see, this way of designing is, pretty difficult to design this way. Now, let me show you the design workflow that you need to follow in order for you to have professional and consistent looking websites. So I'm going to redesign this in the new way, or the new process. So I'm going to come over here. So just like what I did before, we're going to go in here, add our heading. We're going to add our body text. So I'm not going to bore you and show you exactly how I'm going to get to the bottom of this, but I just want to replicate and have the same design as I have over here. So I have my title here and my description text. So let's just center this text by coming over here. So what I'm going to do next is going to be very, very exciting, and you're going to find this very interesting. So instead of me going here, going into design, heading text, and then setting up my size here, I do not need to touch any of this. In this new design workflow, all I need to do is to make sure that my heading is selected here, and then I would come over here to the top to the presets, and then I'm going to choose my heading. So let's say this is heading 1. So just by doing that, my size has been added. I did not need to go in and do this manually. Next, we're going to do our paragraph text. I'm going to select it. We're going to come over here, and then we're going to say body text. So now my body text has been selected. Pretty cool. Next, let's add the blurbs. So I'm going to come over here, add a single column, and then select my blurb. So this is what it looks like. So what I need to do next is to perhaps let's just add let's add an image here so that this looks at least much better. So I'm going to come over here, and we're going to choose our image. So let's say this is the image I'm going to use. I'm going to say upload. All right, so now I have my image, but check this out. Instead of me going again manually adding my heading here and my description text manually, I don't need to do that, because I can just come over here to the top and then choose my blurb just like that. Right now, I know you're saying, well, it looks so massive, but you know what has happened here? My title text here has changed. My body text has changed just by adding that. Let's do a before and after. So before is this is how it looked. After, it looks like that. But of course, when we design with these blurbs, you don't have it just as a single blurb. You're going to have a few of these. So now I'm just going to duplicate this twice. Okay. But here's now what the design workflow it does for me. I can select this row, come over here to elements, and then choose this column, because the column is what has these three blurbs, and you can see these three blurbs right here. All I have to do now is to go in and say auto grid. So these are the sort of features that Divi 5 has given us, which makes us design our websites much easier. So with auto grid now, I can add multiple items here, and I'm going to have a perfect grid all the time. You see that? So everything is right there. It's perfect. And not only that, what's also get exciting here is this is mobile responsive. But you see, you may be looking at this thinking, wow, this is already looking great because our text sizes are already done. And wow, this is cool. But here's the thing. Remember, we need to add our breathing space or our padding around our section. Again, you select your section by coming over here. And then all you need to do is to come over here to the top, and then you say you want your padding to be large. Boom. And already this has been fixed. So the question now is, what about these views? Why haven't we used this? We don't need to use those in the new design system. We don't need to touch that. We don't need to come over here and add manual numbers. No, we are doing this the professional way. So what makes this really amazing is the fact that out of the box, this design system makes your websites responsive. And what do I mean by that? Let's head over here and preview this on the front end. Now, this is what is going to make or break your design. So for example, if I hover over here, you notice that we have this hover effect on my blurbs, right? Which is pretty cool. But you know what? What makes this even better is when you look at this as a UI designer, you cannot have text that stretches along your width of your website. This is way too much, way too much. In fact, UI designers recommend between 70 characters to 90 characters. Thankfully, this design system has that all in place. So if you select this row, you can come over here and say, okay, you want this to be a wide text row. Boom. Just like that, our text is adjusted. Now we also have a grid system, and the grid system is very important when you design websites. So here, this is what you get by default with Divi, but if you go in, we're going to use a 1280 grid. So I'm going to come over here, and then I'm going to say content row. Boom. Now you can see our design is balanced. It looks much better. So what I'm going to do now is to refresh this page so you can see what it looks like on the front end. So now you see that our design is looking much better, but it doesn't end there. I want to show you that this is responsive. Okay, so I'm going to come over here. Now I want you to take a look at the heading size and what's happening and what's going to happen to the blurbs when my screen gets smaller. Do you see that my text across is getting smaller? And then boom, do you see that? My blurbs have now collapsed. My text is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And now we are on the mobile view. You see that? Beautiful, right? My text here is expanding, it's getting bigger as my page gets bigger. So we do not need to go in and waste so much time going in and adding all these values for the different tablet and phone views. We don't need to do that. All right. Now, what is also cool here is we have all the sizes you need. Let's say you decide you want to have a large heading. So to do that, you would come over here and say heading large, and now it's even larger, right? If you want it even larger than that, you'd go in here and say extra large, and now you have a really massive heading. So as you can see, this is flexible. We haven't even gone in and added any values manually. Everything is all done using this design system. Now, if you were to come over here and let's say your client says, hey, you know what, can you change this heading and make it slightly bigger? You would need to come over here. You go to design, and then you're going to start eyeballing the design again. You're going to go to your heading text, and then you're going to start saying, okay, 42, maybe let's see what looks great. You start doing that, and then you go over here. You can say, okay, you know what, I want this bold. And you're going to forget all these sizes throughout your whole web design process. And if you're going to share this design with someone else, they're not going to know, well, I mean, which is which, because there isn't a system in place. And this is where a lot of designers who are going to be using Divi 5 are going to fail. And it's going to be very painful. In fact, in our Divi community, there's a few people that have already been saying, this is so overwhelming. Divi 5 is so overwhelming. But like I said, if you really follow the design system here, you're going to find it very, very exciting to use. Now let's talk about colors. So perhaps maybe you may want this to be a dark mode, right? Maybe you want this to be dark. So what you do again, you'd come over here, and then you'd say, oh, let's go to our content here, background, and I really want a dark gray. And then you do that, right? And again, you're eyeballing your color here. It's not following a design system. And then you're going to go in now, and then one by one, you're going to go in and start saying heading text, and then you go to pick a color here, and then you're going to say, okay, I want this. Okay, and then you're going to go to the you get the idea. Every single item here, you're going to need to go in and change the colors manually. This is time consuming. It's really, really time consuming. Now, let me show you the new way, or the better way of doing this. So now just count how many clicks I'm going to use here. You select your section, you come over here to the background, and then you click on this little icon here. So this is where you have all your colors. All these colors follow a formula. These are not random colors, okay? So I'm going to choose gray 900. That's one click. I've changed my colors. And if I need to use the same color on a different section across the whole website, I can just choose gray 900 and I'll be fine. Next, our heading. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go to my presets, and I'm going to say heading extra large light, okay? Because that's what we need. So I'm going to come over here. Boom. My color has been added. Here is our body text. We also need this light. So I'm going to come over here. So we're going to say body text light. Boom. Done. Now it's time to adjust our blurbs. I'm going to come over here. And since this is a blurb on a dark mode, I'm going to come over here and say dark. Now, do you see my text has just changed, and the background color has also changed in a very subtle way? And this is the power of using a design system. So I can just do this to the rest, come over here, change this to dark, just like that, change this to dark as well. There we go. So now we've just transformed this super fast. So this is the way you need to be thinking about designing in Divi 5. But you know what? There is also something else that needs to be done for you to have a complete website. So again, let me show you what I mean. If you take a look at the Divi 5 website here, let's do a preview on front end. You notice that we have this default heading and we don't have a footer over here, right? So you would need to go in and add the headings, the headers and the footers in your web design theme area. And this again can be very, very time consuming. You see, out of the box with a design system, we have a basic header here already designed for us, and it's sticky as well. As you can see, when I scroll, it changes color. And then on the bottom here, we also have a footer. But an out of the box Divi website does not have that. In fact, when you take a look here, if we go to the bottom, there's no footer. And what's also frustrating is if you come over here and you do a quick search like that, you see the search results page looks like this. So you're going to spend so much time designing your templates, and the templates can be found here. So I'm going to come over here to the dashboard. We're going to go to Divi theme builder. So this is where the templates are, and you can see here it is blank. Okay, now when we come over here, you notice that we have our header here, we have our footer, and if we do a quick search, I want you to take a look at the results. Okay, we have a search results page that is much better, right? We can go in here, we can, you know, we can search like that, and it shows me my results, and these are my results. If I were to go to this hello world, again, you can see that my blog post is well designed already. I don't need to do anything. As I'm scrolling here, you can see it's fading to give me enough area here to read without any distractions. You see that? It also has my design here all put together already. So this in itself is going to save you a lot of time. You can use this as a base, or you can just use this out of the box, and by having this, you are pretty much ready to design your website. Now, there's a lot of things by default that are great by using this new design system. For example, let's say I want to add some buttons here. So let's say I add my button. By default, it's going to look like that, but I can come over here and then say primary button. Okay, now we have a professional grade button, which is responsive. And if I come over here and center it, you can see my design is already looking great with very minimal work. Now, here's the thing. You may be thinking, well, so what are all these things I'm clicking here? These are called presets. And this design system I'm talking about is also based on presets. And there are a lot of these presets. So as you can see, the design system here is called Crafter Pro. Okay, it's the professional design system for Divi 5. Over here, you're going to notice that we have our body text, all these other presets. Okay, so if you want to do bullets, you know, they're going to be well spaced. Everything's going to look great. If you're going to have notices on your website, these are already done for you, and they can be added using the presets. In fact, let me just do this quickly so you can see what I mean. So over here, let's say you want to have a notice somewhere here on your page. You can just come over here. And let's add our text module like that. And all you have to do for your notice is to come over here, and then you just say notice, boom. And there we go. You go in and then you type what this notice is about. And this has already saved you a lot of time. Maybe this is to show like an error message. You'd come over here, or perhaps a warning. There we go. Now we have a warning. And these colors are what UI designers use to communicate with users of your website as to what is going on. So as you can see, this is a very powerful system. Now let me take a moment and show you all these presets. So here you can see we have our light text on a dark background. We have our notices, our headings. We have all the heading sizes. And this is what they look like on a dark background. We also have a color system. So we have all these shades all designed for you. All designed for you. So if you go in and change your primary color, it automatically creates all your shades. Your secondary color here, your grayscales, and these are your semantic colors. If you want to add rounded corners, they also follow a rhythm. So as you can see here, this is radius extra small, and it goes up to radius large. And we also have our borders here. So when it now comes to the rest of our modules, they all follow the same design system. So over here, you can see this is redesigned, and this looks very subtle, but it is very powerful. We also have the dark version here if we need to use the darker version. So all these modules are designed for you. These were the blurbs that we were looking at earlier on. These are all the type of buttons. So all these tools, even the spacing, if you want to add some spacing to your design, all this is there for you. This is our columns. Remember, I say that we have our text rows, wide text row, content row, and so on. This is what the full would look like. We also have our contact forms all designed. As you can see here, there's nice interactions as we go through this. countdown timers, the bars, pretty much everything here is ready, designed for your icon sizes. You don't have to guess what sizes you want to use. No, all the sizes are there for you already. So you may be asking, well, Mac, what do I do to get this, and what do I get with this? Well, at the moment we have a $40 discount for this complete design system. But you see, as I was thinking, just selling a design system is not enough. You're going to need support, because Divi 5 is a brand new page builder, brand new, built from the ground up. So you're going to need a lot of support. And from the day we launched this, we created a community here. This is a private community for Crafter Pro users only. This is private. As you can see here, this is private, right? And over here, you can see it has 945 members. This is a combination of lifetime members and also people that have purchased Crafter Pro. But you see, it doesn't end there. Having a dedicated community is not enough. But anyway, let's take a look and see what's in the community. So if we go in here, you can see already there's a lot of interactions. Okay, people are asking questions, and there's so much going on. A lot of people are super excited about this. But you know what I made different here is, if you take a look here at the labels, you can see here we have Crafter Pro as a label. So if you purchase Crafter Pro, on your profile, if I see this orange marker here, I know that, oh, okay, you need priority support. So this is how anyone that purchases Crafter Pro is going to get priority support, because I really want you to get up and running with this. And I'll be sharing even a lot of designs only with the Crafter Pro users, because these designs are going to be based on the design system. So, because I can't just design and put it out there if it doesn't follow a design system, it'll break. So all our layouts are going to follow this design system. But you see, it doesn't really end there, because of course, when you purchase Crafter Pro, you're going to also need to know how to use it. Well, I got you covered, because over here on the courses, I have the Crafter Pro course. And as you can see here, we have all these students in the course. So far, there's one lesson. I'm working on all these lessons to show you how to use Crafter Pro effectively. Now, I know you're probably going to say, but Mac, this is way overwhelming. And now I have to go through a course. Well, you know what? I've made things even easier. I have a Divi 5 mastery course here. This is a course that will get you up and running super fast with Divi. Now, this course only costs $27. $27. This course pretty much goes through how Divi 5 works. And if you pay $27 for the course, all the future lessons and future modules and future features that Elegant Themes are going to add, you're going to get them absolutely free, or at no extra charge. So it's only $27. So these two products are going to be ideal for you to be able to design professional looking websites. If you go into the design process with the Divi 4 mentality, you're going to find Divi 5 overwhelming, and you're also going to find it very, very frustrating, because there's a lot more features added to this. Now, I'm here to support anyone that purchases Crafter Pro and also the Divi 5 Mastery, but you can also join the community. Head over to diviuniversity.com. You can join the community for free and get to see and discuss with others that are using Divi 5. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.